A wise man once said, the most important player in your team is your tight head prop, and the second most important player in your team is the backup tight head prop. I don't know which wise man said it. Do you? Please let me know if you do know that. Who is responsible for that quote? Because they're absolutely right. No question. The cornerstone of a scrum, the anchor of a team, and can't scrum, can't win. I'm an Englishman. I know that pretty much better than anybody else. And the pain it has caused me as a result. So here we go on the player power rankings. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. The top 10 tight head props on planet Earth as I see it right now, based on current and recent form, based on historic form, and gut feeling as well about players. I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. This is a really interesting category, this one. There are lots of players going up and down the list. The age profile of this top 10 is one of the most interesting things about it. You've got a lot of guys well into their 30s, but then you can get away with that as a tight head prop because, as I say, the fundamental job is to anchor that scrum. Let me know exactly what you think in the comments down below. Hit subscribe as well, because I'll be doing one of these videos every single day until the 9th of August, going through the whole team. The hooker and loose head prop are there already, and I'll be going right through the team. So, at number 10, I've got Luke Tangi of Fiji. He had a brilliant World Cup. And actually, Fiji are in the process of really sorting out their set piece. And he plays for Bayonne in the top 14. And I'll tell you what, when you look at Luke Tangi, he played a lot of matches between Fiji and in the top 14 this season. He's 27 years of age. He's only approaching his prime. He's going to get better as a tight head prop. At number 9 and back into the top 10. He's been there before, then went out and he's back in. Fletcher Newell. He played 30 minutes in those 2 games against England each. Started against Fiji. He missed the Rugby World Cup final, if you remember. But he is the clear second choice for New Zealand. And I think there's an argument to say, of all of their front row stocks, which are superb, he's actually the best scrummager of the lot. I've got a lot of time for Fletcher Newell. And he is a selection, again, when I was looking at this top 10 and thinking, yeah, his scrummaging is that good and scrummaging is that important. And I hope, by the way, the scrummaging stays as important as it always has been. I hope these efforts to depower the scrum don't work, because the fact we have all shapes and sizes on a rugby pitch is down to the scrum, and we would not have a top 10 that looks like the one I've got for you here if it changes too much. At number 8, Vincent Koch, who's down a couple of spots. He's only had 7... Interesting, I was looking at his stats. He's only had 700 minutes of rugby in the last year, including the World Cup. Didn't play a lot for the Sharks. But he's the backup tight head prop for South Africa with all the riches of talent they've got. He is the backup. Just like Fletcher Newell, he played in a Rugby World Cup semi-final. Yes, he was in that scrum that won that penalty at the end of that match against England. I remember it well. I was there in Paris for it. But he did not play in the Rugby World Cup final. I expect at the age of 34, this is going to be interesting. Will Vincent Koch still be in the box squad come the next World Cup? There's a bit of churn going to be happening. I suppose one position on the pitch where you can play deep into your 30s would be in the front row. So I wouldn't put it past him. Very, very good player. Looks like Mr. Incredible as well. That's just a bonus. Got nothing to do with where he appears on this list. He's there totally on merit in my mind. At number 8. At number 7, Kakha Gigasishvili. He did not play in the Georgia match against Australia. And there was a few big players for Georgia that have played a lot in the top 14 this season that didn't travel down to Australia, which was a bit of a shame because they gave him a decent match, but I think they could have given him even more of a match. Particularly this guy. He is a fearsome scrummager. 32 matches he's played this season for club and country, and he's at Toulon, got to a top 14 playoffs, and absolutely brilliant scrummager. He's scary. So hopefully Georgia gets supported by World Rugby. We're hearing all this talk about the Nations Cup, and it's only going to involve the top 12 teams. Georgia will be on the outside. He's a player that deserves to be playing at the top table of international rugby. Number 6, new face into the top 10 and rocketing up it as well, Xander Fagerson. He was in the top 10 before, just like Fletcher Newell, he dropped out. I've got him back in right now. What an amazing year Xander Fagerson has had. And to put it in context, he played a full 80 minutes in that URC final for Glasgow Warriors at altitude in Pretoria, a full 80 minutes. That's remarkable for any tight head prop anyway. But in a game of that magnitude, and it's not just a one-off as well. He played 80 minutes against France in the Six Nations. He played 70 minutes against Ireland and Wales in the Six Nations. This guy has got an unreal engine, and he's really improved. He was a bit of a penalty machine in years gone by, seems to be sorting that out, and his set piece is getting better. He's 28 years of age. There's an argument his best years are still ahead of him, and he is in rich form. And with the British and Irish Lions tour 1 year away, I'm going to say, I think he could end up being the starting tight head prop for the British and Irish Lions. Genuinely, I think he's pushing Tadhg Furlong that hard. Tadhg Furlong stays at number 5. And hey, same position as last time. I say he's being pushed by Xander Fagerson. I know the sort of player Tadhg Furlong is. He is going to respond and will probably push on and make me look silly by owning that starting jersey. It is interesting though, at the age of 31, he's starting to be used a bit less by Ireland. Obviously, he's the starter, but 44 minutes he came off in that second test against South Africa. I think that's quite revealing. And when you look at the minutes that he's being played for, they are starting to drop a little bit. And that should lengthen his career, which Ireland need him to do. And maybe that's the thinking that's going on here. I'm not saying he's not capable of going deeper into games, but when you look at Xander Fagerson, 28, a lot less rugby in his legs, and he's playing 80-minute matches. Tadhg Furlong's played a lot of rugby at a very, very high level. And his standards have been so high for so long. It's actually quite hard. And it's when someone's been so good for so long, you then almost start to take it for granted that they're a brilliant player. He is a brilliant player. That's why he's at number 5. Down a spot to number 4 is Ben Tameifuna, Big Ben. 36 appearances this year. He is, I think he's 34 years of age as well. And yeah, like I say, there are a lot of players on this list that are into their 30s, coming towards the end of their career. And Ben Tameifuna, he's basically a 45-minute player now. When you look at the minutes that he's played, whether that's for Bordeaux, whether that's for Tonga, that seems to be how he's used, just for about 45, maybe 50 minutes at most. But what a 45, 50 minutes he can give you. There is very few people as good. His Rugby World Cup was incredible. He was I would say the best tight head prop at the Rugby World Cup only 9 months ago. So he's still deserving of a place in the top 5 for me. He's at number 4. Down a spot as well, Atonio, who I thought had retired after the Rugby World Cup. Well, he had retired from international rugby after the Rugby World Cup, but was persuaded to come back and then started every game in the Six Nations for France. And when you're 150 kilos, there's very few people that are like you, and he is unique. Well, Ben Tameifuna, also 150 kilos, so there's at least a couple of them. But again, much like Ben Tameifuna, look at the minutes that Atonio is playing. He's 34 years of age as well, and he's getting used for 45 minutes a game. So what you're going to see in this top 10, I predict over the next couple of times I do it, is a lot of players sliding down and out, and a lot of new blood rocketing to the top. That's what Tyrell Lomax has done at number 2. He's 28 years of age, coming into prime age, 6'4", 130 kilos, and absolutely brilliant. Coming into his prime years, I'd say that out of a brilliant stable of All Blacks front rowers, he's the best player of the lot, an all-rounder, and with the law changes potentially being tweaked and changed by World Rugby, that could benefit a guy like Tyrell Lomax, who is much more than someone who can anchor a scrum, but he can absolutely do that. He's at number 2 and pushing hard. The number 1, who is still Frans Malherbe, because whilst World Rugby may be trying to depower the scrum, may be trying to change it, as it stands right now, as we sit here, the scrum is still so important that someone who will not move, or certainly not move backwards or sideways an inch, but can just be a rock that occasionally rumbles forward from time to time, and is probably worth 3 to 6 points on his own in every given test match, Frans Malherbe is number 1. He did play 65 minutes in that Rugby World Cup final as well. And I don't care. If all you do as a tight head prop is bend over and push really hard and win 3 to 6 points from penalties every match, job done. But he can do more than that as well, which is exactly why he is still at number 1. All right, let's have a look at the full list then. And yeah, I guess the big kind of winners out of this top 10 are Xander Fagerson and Terrell Lomax. And the players that have dropped out, actually, by the way, Trevor Niakane out of the top 10. Thomas Francis no longer eligible to play for Wales due to their ridiculous eligibility laws that they really should change. And one player that isn't in the top 10, but I did think about, Taniela Tupou. I'm cautious with him because he looks like he's back. He looks like he's properly back. But Taniela Tupou has only played 2 halves of international rugby, 40 minutes in those 2 games against Wales. Let's see how he gets on in the rugby championship. And hopefully we'll be seeing Taniela Tupou not just back in the top 10, but significantly back in the top 10. I hope he is at least. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. Hit subscribe on the channel so you don't miss any of these videos. I'll have one a day, 6 PM UK time. So there's always something to fill that rugby void that we've got until the Rugby Championship starts in a couple of weeks. I'll see you on the next one.